Mr. Pompeo said the U.S. would be free to develop and test a range of weapons if Russia failed to meet the deadline. He said Russia was in flagrant violation of the accord, citing cruise missile tests as an example. Moscow has denied breaching the accord. Mr. Pompeo's statement, delivered at the Brussels headquarters of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, opened up the possibility of an intensified arms race between the US and Russia at a time of tension between the two nuclear-armed rivals. Mr. Pompeo also noted that China and Iran aren't parties to the INF, allowing them to develop missiles forbidden to the US and Russia. "We don't want a new arms race," said NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg after Mr. Pompeo's announcement. "It is up to Russia now to preserve the INF treaty. All NATO allies supported the US move," Mr. Stoltenberg added. Mr. Pompeo was in Brussels for a meeting of NATO foreign ministers that focused heavily on Russia's seizure of 3 Ukrainian naval ships last week near the Kerch Strait, which separates the Black Sea from the Sea of Azov. The standoff is testing the alliance's resolve to come up with a joint response to prevent a further escalation. Russia is also holding 24 Ukrainian sailors and partially blocking passage through the Kerch Strait, near Crimea, which Russia unilaterally annexed from Ukraine in 2014. Mr. Pompeo said the goal for Tuesday's discussions in Brussels was to jointly chart a path forward. "There is complete unity around this, Mr. Pompeo," he said. "We will collectively develop a set of responses." The US and other NATO members said the alliance needs to show a strong and determined response to prevent a further escalation in the region. The organization has yet to specify what steps might be taken. Mr. Stoltenberg said the situation in the Sea of Azov was a new example of how Russia is not respecting the territorial integrity of its neighbors, adding that the alliance restated its solidarity with Ukraine. A senior State Department official said while NATO agreed on messaging, it needed more time to come up with an action plan. "Not everything is resolved in a 55-minute meeting," the official said. Earlier the official said the US was looking to raise the costs of Russian aggression, without specifying how this might be done. "The Trump administration has demonstrated its willingness to act decisively," the official added, citing as an example its decision to supply Ukraine with lethal aid. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Pavlo Klimkin said he urged NATO to work with Ukraine to formulate a very clear response to Russia and to enhance the alliance's naval presence in the Black Sea. NATO members Romania, Bulgaria and Turkey have coasts and ports on the Black Sea. Lithuanian Foreign Minister Linas Linkevicius compared the standoff over the Sea of Azov to Russia's seizure of territory from Georgia in 2008 and of Crimea in 2014. He said Russia is testing NATO unity and trying to see how many provocative or illegal actions it can get away with before sparking a response. "They're testing the water, in 2 ways, to see if others react," he said. Mr. Pompeo said the announcement of the 60-day delay came after NATO countries asked the US for more time to convince Russia to return to compliance with the INF treaty. "We're hopeful they'll change course, but there's been no indication to date that they have any intention of doing so," Mr. Pompeo said. The Secretary of State also suggested that US concerns about the INF treaty went beyond Russia, noting that it didn't include rival powers such as China and that several attempts to broaden membership had failed. "This leaves them free to build all the intermediate-range missiles that they would like," Mr. Pompeo said. "There is no reason the United States should continue to cede this crucial military advantage to revisionist powers like China." The Secretary said the stance on the treaty reflected Mr. Trump's desire to show US leadership on the world stage. "If it's broken and it's not delivering for America and for the world, then we ought not rest on our laurels and think, boy, that's good, just because it's multilateral," Mr. Pompeo said. The US would be looking closely at other international institutions as well, he added, and seek to reform those failing to deliver their stated goals. In an earlier speech on Tuesday, the Secretary listed the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund and the International Criminal Court among organizations falling short. Write to Jessica Donati at jessica.donati@wsj.com and Daniel Michaels at daniel.michaels@wallstreetjournal.com appeared in the December 5, 2018, Print edition as US to suspend nuclear pact unless Moscow shifts course.